This is Entrepreneurs Get Visible, the podcast for people who want more impact, influence, and income. I'm Anna Parker-Naples, and I'll be sharing with you proven methods from leading entrepreneurs that help you get visible as an authority in your field. Because anything's possible when you get visible. On today's episode of Entrepreneurs Get Visible, which I'm recording live today, I want to talk you through why having strategic alliances and allegiances is really important for your business. If you think about where you want to go in your business, what you want to create, who you want to be associated with, those things don't happen. And so in today's episode, I'm going to run you through exactly how and why and what to do, what actions you can take to start positioning you really powerfully in whatever industry you are in. So the first thing I want you to think about is, well, where do you want to go? Who do you want to be positioned alongside? Where do you want to be so that people know that you are the best or amongst the best in your industry or within kind of thought leaders worldwide? Where do you want to be? Because if you are busy playing at the bottom, sticking to a comfortable area where you are perhaps always hanging out with the same people online, you're not going to take that step up. And it's that step up that can absolutely help you stand out from the crowd. So what I want you to think about, look around and think, well, if I know I want to be seen as much better at what I do, which connections do I need to have? And crucially, who is already there? Who is already at the top of the field? Who are the people that they spend time with? Who are the people that they are easily connected with when you think about them? And you might want to do a bit of digging. So once you understand those things, then you want to think about, well, what events are they attending? Where are they and how are they positioning themselves online? What podcasts are they guesting on? What kind of videos are they going in? Where are they being as a guest for other people to watch them in videos? Which communities are they going into? Which masterminds are they giving value to? And yes, it might sound a bit stalkerish, but this is going to give you so much information about the kinds of activities that you need to be doing and taking part in and planning. Because when you are wanting to position yourself really powerfully, these things don't happen by accident. They take planning. They take you stepping back and thinking about where you want to catapult yourself towards. So one of the best things you can do towards the end of this year, as we're beginning to wrap up, as we come into the end of 2020, is to start thinking about where you want to go next. Where are you going? And who do you want to be doing the same thing as you? They might be doing a parallel activity. So it might be, for example, in my case, it might be that whilst I talk predominantly about visibility and podcasting, there might be somebody who I know is doing incredibly well within the online space who's talking about money. So it might be that I want to look at what their activities are because I want to be positioned similarly, but as an expert in my own field. Now, these alliances do not happen unless you make them happen. So I want you to start thinking about, well, one, if you have your own podcast or you have your own community, or even if you host a live regularly on your own page, on your Facebook group, on YouTube, or over on LinkedIn now, could you bring somebody on for a conversation? If you don't have your podcast already, then this could be something that you bank up for a future podcast, for example. But once you got that person there and you are getting them to present to your own audience, they are able to leverage your audience. There is something in it for them as well as you. Now, building those networks and those allegiances is super powerful because one of the stumbling blocks that I see people having is that they stay in the pools of people they already know. And of course, because it's comfortable and it's familiar. But if you don't reach out those feelers to take those steps up, it's not going to happen by itself. So I want you to be researching what podcasts not necessarily even your competitors, the people at the level that you wish to be at. What are they on? What podcasts are they going on? What YouTube channels are they going on as a guest? What conferences do they speak at? What conferences do they attend? Now, this actually is a little bit easier these days because not everyone is attending in person because of COVID-19. So you can actually think, well, what summits might they be at? Either as a speaker, a panelist, or an attendee. And you want to make sure that you are strategically getting yourself to those places as well, so that you become a part of that natural conversation. One of the worst things you can do is to kind of try and rock up and invite someone onto your own show or to be a guest in your community when they've never heard about you. And so you've got to think about this as a long-term strategy. If you want to invite someone in 6 months' time to do something for you or with you, and in the hope that you would get that reciprocal invitation back, how can you become part of their world? How can you show up on their social media? How can you make sure they know that you're listening to their podcast, watching their show? How can you make sure that you are having conversations with them on Instagram or on LinkedIn or whatever their social media preference is? So that by the time you reach out to someone with a request to deepen that relationship, they aren't kind of blindsided by the fact they don't know you. They're going to trust you far more because they have come across you and your name again and again and again. And so when you're thinking about the alliances you want to make, it's not just about those individuals. So once you have an understanding of the conferences, the events, the summits, well, who's organizing them? Who's pulling them together? Because if you can get yourself in the room where you are considered as a panelist, then you are powerfully positioning yourself and giving yourself a greater chance of building those powerful allegiances. So I do absolutely believe that this is something that takes planning. One of the things people say to me, particularly because I speak to a lot of podcasters, oh, it's so easy to get people on my show. Well, it might be true, but are you actually getting the right people? Are you bringing in the right people into your community? Are you using that as a strategic way to build your own influence? Because yes, you could bring anyone in. You could bring anyone onto your podcast. You could bring anyone into your community. But is it actually working for you to position yourself more powerfully? Who we see and hear others with massively influences how we feel and think about them. And I've said this quite a few times on this podcast, but it's so powerful and so important. I'm going to say it again. There are so many people having a bum fight to position themselves at the bottom, not charging much, not gaining influence, and really not doing themselves any favors. There are way too many people fighting to charge very little. If you can elevate your status, if you can elevate your connections, I'm not saying the people are better. That's not what I mean, because everyone has value. But I'm talking about strategically bringing in people into your world, into your networks, into your friendships, into masterminds. You are going to improve the results you get for your business. So think about this. Where do you need to be seen? Where do you need to be heard? Where do you need to be remembered so that you have a greater chance of building those strong foundations for friendships, networks, and also for then some co-positioning through joint ventures or collaborations? I absolutely do not think that this is something you should be leaving to chance. And what I would recommend as you take some time out over Christmas, as you take some time planning your next year, stop and think about up to 50 people that you want to powerfully bring into your world. And what can you start to do so that this time next year you have already achieved that? Where do you need to be seen? Where do you need to be heard? And who do you want to be seen and heard by? What is going to make you feel as though you have elevated your status? For me, it's joining masterminds where I know that there are much higher level entrepreneurs. Getting myself on podcasts, usually using my own podcast to leverage that relationship, applying for awards, and, making sure that even if I don't win, that even as a finalist, I have milked that to the nth degree, because it is all about positioning. For me, it's about making sure if I'm going to join a network of some description, that I know that the people at that network are of a level that I want to associate myself with. So be careful, be considered, be strategic, and you will dramatically change your year. And so this time next year, you can look back and say, yes, I made those connections. I built those relationships, and look how far I've come. Because the reason people do start to accelerate, yes, we understand how to use social media. Yes, we know how to do Facebook ads. Yes, we know how to present podcasts. But it's the relationships and referrals that come when you nurture those relationships that really do catapult you. So I hope that that's been really useful for you today. And I'm going to invite you to go and check out, if you are planning to use podcast guesting, or even guesting in someone else's community, their Facebook group, or on their LinkedIn Live, or whatever. I have a checklist that is about making sure you are ready for that interview, and that it works to not only position you, but it's going to work to start to bring you in some profit, to start to bring you in some revenue. So that checklist is called my Income from Interviews checklist, that really is designed for podcasting, but really works for anywhere where you are giving an interview. So you can grab that beneath wherever you're listening to this show today. And I hope you found this super useful. Take some time to think about this. Who do you want in your network this time next year? Where do you want to be positioned? Where do you want to be thought of? Who do you want to be? Where do you want to be? Who is already doing that? And what level do you want to be seen at? So that is it from today. I cannot wait for you to check in with that Income from Interviews checklist, and I will speak to you very soon. Thank you for listening to Entrepreneurs Get Visible. To get your free checklist on how to raise your profile and to find out about our community, go to annaparkernaples.co.uk/get visible.